So then it takes.
We are now live. Okay, great. So I am going to officially call the March 23rd Parks and Recreation Committee to order. And so thank you everybody for joining us. We have a couple of guests tonight. And before I officially call the meeting to order though, I think everybody got the memo that Deanna is going to be leaving the administration of our committee and being replaced by Annika. But I just wanted to say, Deanna, thank you so much for working with us and being a part of this. And as we built this committee, you've really worked closely with me in kind of creating this process as we created something new. So I really appreciate all your time and work and energy and effort. So thank you very much. But that's it being said though, I am going to pass it over to Drew because he had a couple of things to share and to introduce Annika.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to first thank you, Deanna, for everything. We've got a couple things for you that we'll get to you here probably tomorrow, but appreciate everything that you've done over the last year and a half and really helped this group move along. And also, thank you very much for helping transition Annika. So I wanted to introduce Annika to everyone. Annika is a development tech in the planning department. She comes to us with a wealth of experience, graduate of the University of Alberta, but she's also got experience working with the Municipal Government Board in Edmonton, aspiring planner and, just one of our up and coming stars in our department. So excited to have her here and, hopefully you'll welcome her as she's learning the ropes tonight, but I have no doubt that she'll be hitting full speed here shortly. So I just want to welcome Annika aboard.
Thanks, Drew, and welcome, Annika. I look forward to working with you, and we will work to make sure that it's a good experience for you as well, and that everybody gets to contribute. So thank you very much. So with that, then I will officially call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. And so looking at our agenda then, if someone would like to move the agenda as presented. Okay, I see Kelly is making the motion. All in favor? Okay, it looks like that was approved unanimously. Thank you. And then moving on to, right along to 4B, new business. Oh, sorry, I missed a step. We need to adopt the previous minutes. My apologies. So if anybody's, yes.
You also didn't ask if there was any additions or deletions from the agenda. Do we want to back up to do that, or do we want to just accept it?
No, thank you for the catch. Did anybody want to add anything that we can't necessarily add to the roundtable? But this is a chance. No? Okay, so with no additions, we'll add it if we need to. And then, yes, so then the adoption of the previous minutes. If anybody's had a chance to look through those or any comments. So the highlights of that was really, we did have that presentation from the Track and Field Association, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. So if somebody would like to move the adoption of the previous minutes, that would be great. Excellent. Really appreciate Mark making that motion. Excellent. All in favor? Okay, it's passed unanimously. All right, so my apologies. Moving then to new business. The order of their day is going to be discussions around the Horse Creek Sports Park and how we're advancing that program. And so I'm turning that over to Mr. Hyman.
Oh, good evening, everybody. I have a brief presentation, and as part of the presentation, I have Devin LaFlèche from our department as well. He's our transit and sustainability coordinator. So he's got some great input a little bit later in the presentation. But what I was hoping to do as we start this off is really pick up on the presentation that Urban had provided us last meeting. I wanted to share some of the strategic priorities of council, really look at the parcel itself and and then take an opportunity to kind of zoom out, if you will, and look at some of the other aspects of some policies and documents that council has created, both historically and recently, that will help guide our discussions on the Horse Creek Sports Park. So then we'll come back to the sports park itself and talk about some of the things that we wanted to achieve through this process. I'll turn it over to Devin to share some of the different ideas that he can provide. We've got some recent correspondence from a few different groups as well. And then we can really talk about next steps. And the part that I really want to set you guys up for is all the different ideas that you can bring to the table, as we, in April, will be meeting with Urban. And really, this is intended to get you guys thinking about the journey that we had before to get to this master plan, and then ultimately, what are some of the ideas to make this an even better plan for Cochrane moving forward. So that's a brief summary of the presentation that I'll be making, and Devin's going to have some part of that. Before I start, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I am going to share my screen. I will just be one quick minute and get the
Yes, to share. I'm here.
host disabled participant screens sharing.
Go ahead, Drew. It should work now.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully, can everybody see it?
Yeah, you're good, Drew.
Okay, great. So again, I just wanted to go back 2019. This is really sort of the vision. This is from the overlook. I think Lloyd later in our conversation tonight will be talking about this. So this is in the northeast corner of the property. Looking down, it's just an artist's rendering of what we could really look for in this property. So I did want to make sure that we took an opportunity to kind of take a step back and look at some of the work that the previous committee did. So again, I think this was a great opportunity for the town when we worked through this project, but there were some elements to this that really are not applicable today. And if we go into the northwest corner, you see a 7-acre maintenance facility that was really intended for Southland busing. For people familiar, they're off Railway Street downtown. That's a location that they'll be in for the next 3 years. It really wasn't feasible to put it in this location ultimately based on some of the feedback. I know the committee before that we had worked with had a number of concerns. So certainly that is not on the table anymore. So there's an opportunity there. There is a 3.5 acre maintenance yard that's really intended for the overall maintenance of this site in the future. So we're still going to have to consider that moving forward. Again, there's the viewpoint, lookout, gathering space, and then the hillside. I would say, and in part of the presentation later, that's a bit of a fixed element. There'll be some trails in this area, but we're not really looking at changing that area specifically. Then if we go down into the southeast corner, this is the parking lot and the pump track, skills park and flow park. So again, that was really envisioned to be the cycling centric area of the park with various pathways where people could go and walk into other areas into the park. In the middle, you will see a 30-acre parcel for the future high school site. Again, I don't believe Fiona's with us tonight, but this Rocky View Schools is a strategic partner with us on this project. They are currently the owner of the property, and this is the entire property. We have a subdivision that's been approved. We are looking as the town to finalize the purchase of the remaining 120 acres. That should be complete this summer. So then the property will be in the town's name and we'll be able to move forward. But an important element of this is that our strategic partner all through this process is the Rocky View School Division. So they're going to need to have some input into the design that we have as well. Then some of the elements that, if you remember, both Kyle and Greg were from Urban were with us last time. The stormwater facility was really in the southwest portion of the property. That's because it's the lowest portion or the lowest area. But we had talked about, is there a different way that we can approach stormwater in the future where it's perhaps an integrated wetland? It can really relate to the school site as maybe an educational feature. So there's some opportunities there. Then as we go further to the north, you have the various soccer fields, rugby fields, and various parking stalls. I'm trying to remember if it doesn't say right on here. I think there were upwards of 600 stalls. Yeah, 618 stalls on the entire site. So again, one of the things Devin's going to be here to talk about is Colt and its relationship to this this site, because one of the things also is community connectivity is one of council's strategic priorities. I'll be talking about that again shortly, but we want people to walk here. We want from the different communities. We want people to ride their bikes. We want Colt to drop them off. It's not just bring your car. There were some great points last time though, in terms of the orientation of the parking lots. So I think that's some great feedback as well. Then we have the quad ball diamonds, something that is really in need. We talked about its relationship to the Fifth Avenue site and the redevelopment of that site. So that's an important consideration to look at the whole picture of development in the town of Cochrane. And then when we look at sort of the central area, and that's where, well, before I go there, there are some other features in here where there's a trailhead and we have some different playgrounds and other facilities as well. So I don't want to lose that. But I also wanted to just share this as the central area because we had looked at having some skating surfaces, a main clubhouse facility, some basketball courts as well. And then this was some of the leisure ice as well. So some of the different components that we were looking, and then I think this was a really good addition that the last group talked about, was sort of the playground plaza with some seating space. Maybe you're a parent and you have, you know, a couple of children and one is playing one sport and another, but you have to take care of the other. There's an area where you can actually go to a playground. It's right in the immediate area. So those were some of the great ideas that came through this. But I just want to take a step back and share one other element of this is you can see the pressure zone delineation. Can everybody see where my cursor is here? So really what that is any of the servicing that we need to go north of this will cost a great deal more in terms of servicing. You may need lift stations to get into the next pressure zone. So taking some of these facilities that were initially located here because we were intending to bring servicing through the school site and all the way up to this Southland site, we may not need to do that anymore. You know, and that's one of the things that is there the opportunity that maybe the clubhouse facilities are more located in this area or somewhere in this where it's within that pressure zone and strategically it will not cost the town as much to develop this site, but maybe there's some other benefits. So I wanted to share that as something that is a consideration. But really, the main focus, I think, of our discussion is going to be really sort of in this area. But again, happy to chat about some of the other things. So one of the things I thought I would also do is just go into some of the guiding elements that help us as administration and guide us in decision making, which ultimately comes from our council. So when we think about this project, I think about community connectivity. I've already alluded to it. The focus on multimodal transportation solutions. Like when council created this, their primary focus was on a larger scale and having different transportation solutions for the community. But if you've seen some of the projects that they have successfully completed recently, the Horse Creek connection, connecting our communities, emphasizing that administration to work with Alberta Transportation through the interchange project to make sure there's pathway connections. I think this is something that's really important to council as well, as making sure that people can get to this site. And I think Devin's going to have some different ideas there as well. And Devin's also here to talk about some of the other stuff that he's been working on. So undoubtedly, I'm looking forward to his part of his presentation. Community development and planning. Again, this is always something that we're focused on as a growing community. This is really to create a complete community. Again, we've always talked about having the indoor recreational amenities that are associated with Spray Lakes, but this is on the other end of town, and to have the outdoor recreation. So it's complementing one another. I think community engagement council has really always emphasized the importance of that. So one of the things we'll be talking about tonight is how do we engage the community when we bring this forward? How do we make sure that we're meeting their needs? And then again, community facilities and services. Again, this is the improved sense of community, but it's also safe. These are going to be community facilities. This is something that I'm really excited about. I think you should be excited about, an opportunity to really put a unique stamp on Cochrane. But I did want to share this because I think this really helps frame our conversation moving forward with urban. Before I move forward, does anybody have any questions? I know I don't want to be the only one talking, so somebody might ultimately have a question.
Yeah, thanks, Drew, for that. And just to give everybody the context is what we wanted to do with Drew's presentation tonight is to help give an overview of where the project's at and how the project fits into the broader Cochrane conversation, what we're trying to do as a community. And so we wanted to give you this information, and Drew and the team will continue to do that, but to give you this information so that when we come back next month to actually kind of do some of this conceptualizing, you'll understand some of the concepts that we're looking at and some of the different factors that are at play, and just to get your creative mind in context with all these different points. So Drew, I'll turn it back over to you, but I just wanted to kind of round that up for our committee.
I think, Kelly, did you have a question? I saw your hand up.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you expand a little bit on the financial changes about the change in utility? I didn't quite fully understand.
Sure, I'm happy to chat about that. So, no, absolutely. I think it's an important discussion to have. So, the proposal to have Southland in the northwest portion of this property was really based on the opportunity to sell that parcel,
Right.
Southland. And as part of the sale of that property, it was anticipated that that money could be put into the development of this park. I think the financials of this park, I think that's one thing that we'll ultimately talk about, because part of this is Urban talked about last time is a funding strategy. But simply put, Kelly, to move, to go into that other pressure zone and service a single parcel virtually would have cost as much as we could have sold that parcel for. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so there wouldn't
That's
have
huge
been
then.
money at the end of the day to put back into the
Right.
park. So beyond the
Right.
community concern that was raised about from Heritage Hills and the impacts of having Southland busing, and certainly the comments from this group, how it was an incompatible use, it didn't make financial sense either. It's like
Okay.
when developers in our community, they won't go and extend servicing all the way to the other end of something because it costs a great deal. They will have development move in a sequential format to not have such a burden for the cost.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation.
No problem. Does anybody else have any questions before I move on? I've got some other items that I wanted to share.
Yeah, Drew, I had a question.
Sure.
I know, I thought I heard this, just as a regular citizen when this was being brought up in the public. The property is perfectly placed to support road cyclists. And even, those of us that live in town and go road cycling, it's not that easy to get out of town onto the rural roads with the giant, highways. So being able to park at this facility and ride north and connect a whole bunch of rural roads really appeals to me. And I also was part of the Elbow Valley Cycle Club as a board member in the past. So I know that they continue to do rides out of Cochrane. And so I figure maybe, maybe there's enough parking in the bike hub that's there, but really maybe the better spot for the parking for cyclists would be in that corner, upper corner where the Southland was, where they can get out without competing with other traffic. So.
And Peggy, great point. I think I completely agree with you. I think creating that destination where people can park and ride in the area is really important. I think that's something that this group will discuss. I think there's economic development opportunities that come from that, because just as the example you've used, people from the Elbow Valley Club are coming out. And then when they're finished riding, we all know people like to go somewhere and use some of the different businesses or cater to the businesses in our community. So I think that's a great opportunity, and we do have some correspondence that I'll talk about, and that's from one of the local stakeholders who is particularly interested in exploring that opportunity, and then having some signage with different sponsors and businesses, having information with QR codes, whether it's road rides, gravel cycling is really taking off now. I know Justin's on the call here as well, so the connection to BMX, and then mountain bikes trails and fat biking trails. So we're really sort of touching on all elements. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, I will just proceed. So I think this is a really important one as well, and this council in particular should be very proud of this effort. It's the Cochrane Community Vision. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with it, but it is an overarching document which really helps guide the future of the community. In particular, I wanted to draw your attention to some of the different elements of council's vision and ultimately the town's vision, and that would be open space and natural areas. So open space is really going to be important. I think the one thing about this is it's going to be active open space, but there are going to be elements of it where there is, some places that can be a little bit more passive, whether it's to the viewpoint, and then some of the lands that connect into this will have some passive recreation opportunities as well. I think an important aspect of this project is our community identity. Really, we talk about small town values, Western heritage charm, the sense of arrival, our wide open space, but really is this project, it will be part of our identity. Connectivity, I think I've spoken about that already. And then livability, I think if we're trying to create complete communities, we're focused on some of the development of different residential communities. I think Councillor McFadden in particular has spoken about this on numerous occasions. The recreation, that's a demand that her and other councillors are hearing a great deal about, and places for our youth to be active. So just wanted to share this. I'm not sure if people are familiar with it, but it's, I think, a very good document and will help shape our community moving forward. One of the other aspects of this is the green corridors. So again, council was very proactive in, identifying some lands that even are beyond our boundaries. I will just identify the Horse Creek Sports Park right in this corner. But again, along Horse Creek and its corridor, Jumping Pound Creek, of course, some of the land in Glenbow. Here's the escarpment, and this is down in South Bow Landing. You've got some of the Cochrane Hill. And this is something that I'm going to talk to you guys here when we get into the open space master plan, but I want to think you guys to think of all the land north of Highway 1A. We're working on that project this summer from Center Ave, but in this area, we're going to be creating an active recreation, but you start to think about the future and connections into perhaps some parkland in a future spot, some of the connections. Justin, at some point, we're going to ask you to share some of the different vision for the Ag Society, because I think that is just a really special piece of property as well. And they have some fantastic ideas for that property. So this connects into that. we're confident that the interchange project is going to move forward, and there's going to be some connections, but that connects into the Cochrane Ranch, which is a natural open space and such an amenity for us. And then as you go further on, you get into Cochrane Heights, and then ultimately the Big Hill. So just some of the things that I think council was very forward thinking. So this really complements that. So getting into the open space master plan, this was completed in November of 2012. It's a great document. If you have an opportunity before our meeting with Urban, it'd be valuable to look at it. It's got a lot of great information. But one of the items, I just have taken a few of the maps. I wanted this primarily to be visual, but just to spark some interest for some people. So it really gives an inventory of some of the natural features within our community. So we're really focused up in this area. This is really an important one, I think, is the map 2 is the visually significant areas. So if you start to go along here, it identifies that area that is at the top where we're going to create that viewpoint. But then when you start to go into, and Justin, sorry to keep calling you out on this, but the Ag Society property, very special property as well. When I worked for Rocky View County, I worked with the Ag Society looking at the future development. So I'm excited to see what they're coming up with, but really special views from this property. If you ever get the opportunity, and we'll be talking about a potential field trip at some point, maybe we could incorporate some other opportunities over here as well. But it just tells you some of the story about Cochrane and how unique it is. One of the other things here, there's an open space concept that is in map 11. So this is really building on what I was talking about. So you have Horse Creek Sports Park in this area, Cochrane's community vision, and here's Horse Creek. And then you start to look into Heritage Hills and the development of this community, but there is a number of currently open spaces. And then this main coulee is also protected in future phases. You've got the Ag Society with what they're going to do, a very unique property. The development of this intersection, we've got the crossing to get people to the river. So in the future, people, no matter where they can live or where they live, they could come up and get up to Horse Creek in a number of different ways. I think there's proposals and different ideas about this intersection and what can occur. This is just north. This is where Ranch Road and Range Road 43. And this is more of a pedestrian discussion, but again, we'll get to that at a later point. But this is really the area that I was talking about, the Cochrane Ranch, and then you get into the open spaces. And then here, this is the vision that they, in 2012, is the Big Hill Natural Environment Park. So there's the viewpoint from the top of the Big Hill, the radio towers that are up there. So really what I was trying to share, and I've shared with council before, is how special when you think of all the development in Cochrane and the connection, just particularly north of Highway 1A in this area. If you really start to think of how much development versus how much open space is there, it's pretty unique. And again, we've got Sunset as our largest community to the north, and then there's really some great other ideas here too in the future, gravel pit lands where there'll be connections to Glenbow Ranch. Again, that's a larger discussion, but it just, I get pretty excited when I hear this stuff as a planner, because this is really community building and creating a special environment that lines up with that community vision. So before I move on to the next item, does anybody have any questions on this? I can share the PowerPoint as well, so you can take that, because I'm going to give Devin a chance here shortly to share some of his ideas as well. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'll just be mindful of everybody's time. So what I really wanted to do is bring everybody back now. We're focused on this, 120 acres. The school's got their own plans on their 30 acres. But again, I think the real opportunity is focused in this area. So I just had a couple of things that I wanted to share, and I think I've already alluded to them, so I'll just be very brief. Rocky View Schools is our strategic partner. All of our plans, anything we propose is ultimately going to require their approval. They are, as I say, our partners in this. And certainly when we were working through the process with Southland, they had lots of questions about that, but they said, well, if it's in that northwest corner, but we really want to come up with something that completes this site. We're going to have this property, the purchase of it finalized by this summer. But there are some fixed elements to the proposed plan. I think that school site and then the hillside, there's really limited development. We really want to, any of the work that we would be doing in terms of a grading concept and things like that and servicing would really be focused on the other areas of the site. So, so this is just picking up some of the different key elements that Urban shared with us at our last presentation. So really, we're looking to tweak the concept. We're not looking to start from scratch. I know we've got new people on the committee and there's going to be lots of great new ideas. Excited to hear those, but let's look at this as working within those parameters. But again, if there's a great idea, you know, please do share it. And then really we want to optimize this concept. You know, any changes that we make may have ripple effects on other opportunities. You know, there may be some other groups who are interested. I think pickleball is one group that previously expressed some desire to be on this site. I think through that process, just to share and be very transparent, there was some concerns. This is a windy area, pickleball, not that I'm a player myself. I'd like to learn, and but in the heavy winds, probably not the ideal place for pickleball, but again, we would look to them for some of their feedback. I think you heard Greg talk about level of play, level of service expectations, and then we talked about some of the parking requirements and really what does parking look like. I think, not sure if it was Mark, but I think you made the comment on the angle parking and being able to see the kids. I thought that was a great point last time as well, so appreciate that. And so again, any of the changes that we're looking at, we would have to look at the site servicing and what that would impact, and then do some updated cost estimates. And then I think what we really want to understand here is phasing. I think Peggy brought up a great point about people wanting to use this site. And, you know, if we build a parking lot, say this summer, and we have people parking their cars and going on road rides, it's going to be fantastic. That's great. But it also will bring other people to the site, and we'll have people walking on the site, people doing other things. And then it's this concept that our previous CAO really shared with me a lot, and it's the creeping permanency. It's like we have an introduction of a use and then it suddenly becomes the use, when the intention was always, well, we've got a bigger plan. So we have to manage that. So that's something that I think I just want to share. And then just in terms of our approach, and this is a slide directly from Urban's presentation. So again, we're reviewing the concept and having that discussion. In April, we're going to be, I hope you can all go away from this meeting tonight, think, oh, okay, I've got some great ideas, and bring those ideas for our meeting with them in April. And, you know, we can look at developing some different ideas that they'll take away and develop some concepts for us. And then we'll narrow down those preferred concepts in May and June. Also understanding what the funding looks like for those, and a strategy on how to make this a reality. We've had groups come forward and say, hey, we want to go on there right now. But again, it's how do we fund those? And then ultimately we have to take this to council for their approval. So we're hoping to do that in the early summer. And I think we'll talk a little bit about some engagement as well. But I've been doing most of the talking. I want to turn it over to Devin. He is a great resource in the town. He has been instrumental in getting Colts going, but he is also working on a number of other things. So I thought it was important to invite him tonight. So I will turn it over to him to share his presentation. And I guess I got to stop sharing and I'll come back and share it in after. Devin, I will turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Drew. I'll just
Can we ask questions, Drew, before we get into Devin's presentation? Is that all right with you?
Absolutely, Councillor.
Yeah, so two things. One is, I think it's really important to reiterate where that line is in terms of services. because I think in many ways that'll drive almost everything in terms of direction. The other is years ago when I was on town council in Athabasca, Alberta, we built a similar park up there, although it wasn't as large and have as many amenities. But one of the things that we discovered was that with the baseball diamonds and the direction that we placed them, we discovered that the evening sun actually went into people's faces. And so in addition to the kind of angling of the parking lot, you might, again, I'm not a skilled baseball player, and I'm sure the baseball association can speak for themselves, but just give some direction or thought to that. Just as you talked about the pickleball players not wishing to be up there because of the wind, you might want to look at what direction those ball diamonds face, just in case. I mean, maybe you play ball all the time, but it seemed in Athabasca at least it was an evening sport, or early evening sport. So I would just share that. And thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Great points. I think the last group, when we were looking at this, the ball diamonds were a little bit closer to Horse Creek Road. And I'm trying to remember who it was, but one of the people on the committee was, or no, actually, maybe it was Councillor Wilson was saying, well, you know what? I hit a pretty deep fly ball, so I don't want to hit anybody's car. So again, we moved them back. So again, these are different things that there's lots of opportunity to share different ideas. All right, Devin, I will turn it over to you. Thanks for your patience with me.
Yep, not a problem. No other questions or comments at this point? All right, we look good. I'm just going to share my screen. Should be seeing what I'm seeing. So again, really thankful for Drew for letting me come speak to the committee. What I wanted to provide today is just kind of an overview of what I do or my role at the town and how I can assist the committee, especially in regards to transit, sustainability initiatives, trying to find ways to reduce consumption, energy cost, really drive down that bottom line for the park. And then an exciting, interesting project we could explore is the Horse Creek Solar Park. So first with transit, as Drew mentioned, I run our Colt service, Cochrane On Demand local transit service, but I also explore the future of transit, different mobility options, everything from buses to autonomous buses. We've even talked gondolas. So if you want to look at it, I'm happy to explore it. I work with a couple organizations that provide transit all over Canada, North America, and the world. So can always pose it to the group of experts that we have. A really key part for, especially when we're talking about Horse Creek Sports Park, is making sure that we integrate transit service properly. That is not an afterthought, that when you're designing it, and it looks like we have that transit hub, but making sure that it's the right location. I have on the map, this is kind of the future of Colt, where we're looking at some fixed routes. This is a draft of what we're looking at. With the interchange upgrade, we'd likely be changing this pink route, but we would be able to add more time, making it feasible to get into Horse Creek Sports Park, bring you back to our transit hub, and get you there within under 30 minutes for that route. So this will be a great way to connect Horse Creek Sports Park to SLS Family Sports Center, all across Cochrane, and connecting to regional buses into Calgary. We're also looking at a connection to Morley and Banff and Canmore as well. So again, I think if we can tie in the Horse Creek Sports Park with transit, it allows for people to come from all over and vice versa. So that's really what we want to do there. So I can assist with the planning out the stop location. I also have contracts on providing bus stop infrastructure. So when we're looking at shelters, we can get custom designs for that to fit the standard and the design of the park, as well as benches, all kinds of amenities that you're looking at. So as you start to plan, I haven't come with any, here's your solution. I think it's really, when you start looking at this part of connectivity, transportation, any kind of transit hub, I'd be happy to come help the committee. You can give me kind of your questions, concerns, what you're trying to achieve, and we can work together on that. So for transit, always happy to help talk about transit. My other hat is, actually, I'm the town's municipal energy manager. It's a grant funded program from the province, really focuses on finding sustainability initiatives. The focus of the program is to find low and no cost initiatives, ways of reducing your bottom line. We also look at leveraging grants for renewable energy projects, but we do really try and find things like behavioral changes, HVAC improvements, lighting upgrades, things that can really get a quick return on investment. And then we look at using that return on investment to invest in future projects. So we're already doing that across the town. We have an LED lighting upgrade project underway right now, looking at a rec program that's going to help Spray Lakes Family Sports Center, up to $750,000 in grant funding for energy retrofits to reduce their consumption as well. So lots of exciting stuff there. I'm always, again, when we look at the sports park, we can explore grant opportunities, ways of finding innovative ways of either doing irrigation, lighting, you name it, we can explore it. And I do work with a network of other municipal energy managers all across Alberta. We also work with some consultants. So if you have a piece of infrastructure or a part of the park that you're looking at and you really want to pose, can we do something innovative here that's not too risky, that's been tried and been successful? I can pose some of that to, I can either find it myself or pose it to the teams that I work with. Again, when we do these initiatives through the Municipal Energy Manager program, it's really focused on ongoing monitoring. So we implement things like window upgrades, LED lighting changes, and then I use systems like RET Screen Expert from Natural Resource Canada, and actually model it to see that did we get those savings, to make sure, are we actually seeing what we said we would do, make sure that it's successful. And then lastly, the program really focuses on staff and community empowerment. So giving people the information and tools to make a change is not, when we work with staff, is not following people around saying, hey, you didn't turn off the light. It's getting them to understand the cost behind not turning off the light, realizing that if I do this in my office, here's the savings, and they also take that home with them. We're working on, so I'll jump to the next. We created a consumption reduction team, and my idea is really with your committee. The consumption reduction team is actually voluntary staff who have a passion, or they have ideas on how they can help reduce consumption across our organization. They pose to me different ideas, we explore them, and then I come back, we have meetings and bring back feedback. So we're looking at things like staff and community engagement, facility retrofits. We have a ton of different ideas there. Looking at formalizing the way that we do lead shadowing. So rather than paying for the lead sticker, just making sure that we actually go through the process, track what we do. Corrective Services Building is a great example. They're doing an HVAC, an innovative way of doing cooling. We want to make sure people in the facility understand that that's being done, and the community, because a lot of these innovations and cost savings, nobody ever hears about, but they're very innovative. They save taxpayers money. So we want to really focus on that. We've created a paperless and records management team that's focused on mapping out processes, finding efficiencies, reducing waste and resources, but also time, and then energy as well. Last part would be for renewable energy projects. We're exploring things like SLS Family Sports Center just mentioned. They were looking at replacing their roof. We have some rooftop solar funding we can explore. So always looking for ways to tie in. And I think when, as a committee, you're looking at doing things in a park, adding infrastructure, we can find ways of being innovative, reducing that bottom line, and making sure that we really showcase the innovative nature of Cochrane. That's really what we're trying to do.
And one thing, Devin, I wonder if you could share with the committee too, it's a lot of the work that you're doing in this realm is sort of retrofit in many ways, but here's an opportunity to put this lens on it very early. So we don't have to retrofit. We can plan ahead, and that can be part of the savings. Again, we have an understanding. I think Peggy had a great question in terms of some of the funding earlier, or sorry, it was Kelly. And, you know, here's a great opportunity. So I thought it would be important to share that with the whole committee as well.
Definitely. It's always cheaper to do it right the first time. Even when I talked about solar on a rooftop, it's much cheaper, much more, it has a better business case based on doing it on a new build than trying to fit it in afterwards. So yeah, again, if we can be innovative to start and find the proper solution, that's where we want to be. The next project, this is an exciting one. A couple, I guess a year or two back, we were exploring some grant opportunities for a solar farm. At the time, this master plan was just being created, so we didn't look at this parcel of land. But we were looking at creating a solar farm, ground-mounted solar farm. Roughly, this is 2.5 megawatts. This would power over 620 homes. But what we'd be looking at for this project, just because of its site location, to the north, or I'll jump to the screen ahead. So we have the Horse Creek Sports Park here. Here's the inter-pipeline extraction plant. There's a substation in close proximity. One of the biggest costs is the connection to a substation. But even better is we have a large industrial emitter right beside this parcel, who can actually go right directly to and actually feed into their system. What we've actually done is looked at a private-public partnership with Interpipeline, where this project, we've estimated out at about $7 million. Interpipeline would own and operate. They would pay the town a lease. They would also pay taxes. And what we'd also have is a community benefit agreement. The project would produce a net revenue of about $500,000. So we would split that amount. Interpipeline would be giving half the revenue to the town. So we'd have this $250,000 per year that could go to actually funding some of the capital cost or the operations of the park. So over 25 years, that's when solar panels start to degrade. They don't stop working at that point, but that's when we start seeing a loss of efficiency. We'd have 6.25 million raised for this. Our greenhouse gas savings are 140 households, the equivalent. And then a great part about this project is, since we have this school in such close proximity, is really creating an education program around that. And we've created, so we're already looking at this for grant opportunities. Oh, I should mention that. For this $7 million project, we'd be looking at a grant for at least 50% cost coverage. The province, the federal government are looking at projects like this. So that's where we would be looking, is to get some funding at a minimum of that 50%. Interpipeline would put in the other 25% or less, and we would put in the other amount. Again, they would take on the risk of operating, owning it. I have quite a lot of faith in Interpipeline to be able to manage this project. We've met with them. They actually love the project from a community standpoint. As you know, I think they're committed to $600,000 towards the ball diamonds. They love the idea of they're looking for projects that really tie to how can they tie into renewable. So for them, this is a huge win on just the community part. They want to be tied to how can we look at, we're funding a sports park through this. We've discussed the idea of naming rights, obviously nothing too firm. And when I show this 12 acres here, that's what's required for the 2.5 megawatts. This is roughly 15 acres. So you still have room for a maintenance yard. This isn't set in stone. We're really just trying to preserve the bike trails, utilize this corner that opened up. Again, the issue was traffic before with Southland there. A solar farm has very little traffic. Ground mounted solar, again, low maintenance as well, tried and true. And then we've run it along the top here to make that connection into Interpipeline, where we connect directly to them. And that would, again, help reduce their emissions locally. So we're looking at a P3 again with Interpipeline, with a community benefit agreement. We've been working with a consultant, Accent Energy Partners. They work with Interpipeline and us in previous grants at no cost. And we're also been working with Cochrane High School Sustainable Development Committee, who's already done 3 phases of solar on their school. And they would really have this educational tie-in where they would be helping other schools get interested in how do we look at renewable energy. And Interpipeline really wants to take this part too, where the vision behind this is the viewpoint Drew had shown before. You would have solar panels at your back as you're at this viewpoint, the gas extraction plants off to this corner. And it really tells the story of Alberta's energy future, where you have carbon and renewable working together. This gas extraction plant too, it actually is very innovative, where they actually remove certain chemicals to create plastics, other types of fuel. So again, Interpipeline very much on board with this. It's an exciting project for us both. The real thing is going to be finding funding for it, and again, making sure that there's an appetite for it from the Parks and Rec Committee. But it does offer us a funding opportunity. So that's it for me. If you have questions right away, happy to take them. Also, if you have questions later, there's my contact info. Feel free to reach out, and I will see if there's any hands.
So Devin, thank you very much for your presentation. I mean, I generally love planning, and for anybody who hasn't met Devin before, he's really become kind of Mr. Innovation for our team. His office has no windows, which I think must inspire a great deal of thinking what's outside the box, because he does that a lot. So there's a lot to unpack here. This is kind of a concept coming to be one of the things for us to consider as we build into it. It's easy to get excited when you see ideas like this, because it starts helping us, I think of different ways to look at it. So it's more than just a sports park, which was exciting enough. It's also an opportunity for Cochrane to find innovative ways to accomplish more than one thing on the site. So anyway, it's an exciting presentation, but I do want to turn it over to the committee for any questions. If you could throw your hands up on the chat, we'll kind of try to call everybody out.
The only thing I wanted to share for the committee's consideration as well is, as Councillor McFadden said, I think Devin's done a great job with a concept, an idea that we could explore, but this is one of several ideas that we're going to explore through this process. So again, it was perhaps some of you are thinking, where did this come from? Like, why? But again, I just wanted to make sure. I know Devin has been doing some great work, and an opportunity to perhaps have some funding for the sports park in the future, and have that education connection as well. You know, as part of the maintenance yard that we had talked about, where the town we could have some of those solar panels on the roof as well. So there's still an ability to do things. It's not like, oh, we've lost that piece of property right after we've gained it. So anyways, I just wanted to share that, but I'm sure you've got some questions for Devin, and I will turn it back over to you guys.
So I think first up, question from Derry. Derry, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Great job, great presentations from both of you. You've given us so much information and such a good overview, and also some great inspirational ideas on the innovation side. So from what I can understand, with the scope of changes that we could recommend to urban systems, and I know we're going to talk about that next time, you said, Drew, but what constitutes a minor scope tweak and what would be a big change? So if we consider that we've got major constraints from the hillside, the additional constraint of the pressure zone, is it still a minor change to ask, as we discussed last time, for the clubhouse to be moved inside the lower pressure zone?
Derry, I don't see that as a major change. I think that's something that, from my perspective, would be a starting point. As Councillor Reid had talked about, I think servicing should really be driving some of the decisions here. You know, we want to make this economically feasible. We want to make good decisions. You know, when I say tweak, like what I just don't want the committee to do, from my own perspective, would be to say, well, it's great that you guys did this, but I'd like to start from scratch and let's just wipe everything off and start. I think there's a lot of great work that's been done. Several of the committee members who are still here can speak to that. But I think we've got new committee members who are going to have some great ideas. I think it's a real collaborative effort to bring out the best in what we can do. And that's really, you know, my intent with bringing Devin. He does so many great projects for the town and has great ideas, and it starts the conversation. So Derry, I would suggest, you know, and I've got a little bit more in my presentation. You know, I want people to really have some innovative ideas, but let's not, and some new ideas, but let's not, you know, the school site is somewhat fixed. That hillside, we don't want to grade the whole hillside to get something different there. If we have those two elements, and then working with our strategic partner, understanding that Rocky View Schools is our partner in this, and we need their buy-in. And I think what I really appreciate about Devin's presentation, and I've worked with the sustainability group from the high school over the last few years, you know, to see those kids get so excited and see what they did. A couple of years ago, I met with them and they said, we're going to put the solar project on the roof and this is the cost. And I thought, oh, wow, this is a great idea. I'll probably see them in a couple of years. They were back in like 5 months and said, yeah, we've raised $100,000. And I couldn't believe it. So again, it's it just inspires a whole generation. So that's what I see. There's so many opportunities from education, recreation, sustainability. So the real thing I wanted you guys to be thinking about is opening your eyes to the potential of this site, and let's all work together.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Drew. Derry, is that a good answer for you? Thumbs up. Excellent. Peggy, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I wanted to throw my enthusiasm behind the solar park idea. I think that's fantastic, Devin, and all the work you've done to bring different groups together to talk about it. I think it's fantastic. I have solar panels on my roof, and I get as a homeowner, it's like one of the rare opportunities for my house to actually make me money. And here you have a property that's on the outside of town, and it's right beside Interpipeline, which would use the energy. That just sounds amazing combination. And then being near a high school and being an opportunity to educate the high school students from not just that school, but other schools on the value of renewables. I mean, we definitely have sun here, right? So just a great initiative. And I'm glad that you've done all that research to be even able to put together some numbers for us as well, to see it as something feasible even at this stage.
Excellent. Kelly, your hand's up. Is that from prior?
No, actually, I tried to, I forgot to lower it earlier, but I did want to say thank you to Devin. All of his work on the transit, and that's, his presentation was very, very appreciated. I really like to hear about the Interpipeline and the solar panel, and making that connection from, carbon energy to renewable, which is really, really, really brilliant, because we're building renewable energy, hydrocarbons, and the connection to the town. So it's more than just a financial bridge, but it is one where Interpipeline is actually actively looking to work with Cochrane, and that really makes me happy. And I appreciate that you're doing that work, Devin. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, Devin, did you want to add anything? I think we're definitely going to want to keep talking to you.
Waving your hand, so
Dawn has a comment, I think, Tara.
Yep. Okay, to Dawn.
Again, thank to you both for the presentation. I think it was really interesting and really valuable in going forward. A couple of things I wanted to mention that have arisen out of our original discussions. One was that the town does have an engagement policy. So when we get into the whole discussion around community engagement, if you get a chance, take a look online and take a look at it, because I think it's really important that we're familiar with that. And the other piece that I think is really important, and we talked about it a little bit at the last meeting, and Drew mentioned it tonight, was the whole concept around the level of play. And I think that really is echoed through the whole concept of complete communities, and focusing on what do we build in Cochrane for the citizens of Cochrane, not negating that the benefit, as Peggy mentioned, of having people come from outside and going cycling and using our amenities and contributing to the businesses in town. But I think that is an absolutely critical conversation that we need to have as we move forward. And I think further talking about, Derry, in regards to your question, I think when we first started working on the design for Horse Creek, it was more identifying the different sports and the different activities than really saying, well, this has got to go here and this has got to go here. We really leaned on urban to take our suggestions and our ideas about playgrounds and passive areas and that kind of thing, and looked at them as the professionals to come back and put that design together and be able to respond to us and say, that was a great idea, but it's not feasible because, or we change this because of what you guys said. So I think that the more important thing for me is who's going to be on the site, what's the level of play going to be, how is it going to be accessible, and then move forward from there in terms of how does it get funded, how do we share operations and management of it. That's all.
Councillor McFadden, if I can just share one other thing, I think I just wanted to pick up on a couple of comments with the link to the high school and, you know, some of the other projects that the town's working on. So I really see this project as so important in so many ways, providing, I think through COVID, we've seen the importance of recreation, outdoor space, and as we emerge out of this, I think, you know, that's going to be really critical. But one of the things I was thinking about too is with that connection to the high school, think of in the future, you guys are creating a design and Devin's idea here with Interpipe. And imagine that one of the students from the school or any of the schools goes out to the site and is inspired by, you know, learning more about solar. And then they, as they're graduating, they start and think, yeah, I want to start a business like this. And they go to the innovation hub that we're building and they start their own business. And that business is growing through another town initiative. And then they start and they have a small business that's renting some space that ultimately becomes a larger business. So you start to tie this all together and there's so much opportunity with what this council in particular has come up with a great vision. So just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Drew. It's easy to get excited about it. Don, I just wanted to circle back to your points. I think certainly public engagement is going to be a major part of what's going to make this successful. That'll be the next piece. But yeah, very much so with what the previous group had done in working with Urban was identified which user groups best fit, and then rather let it up to Urban and their expertise to decide how that fit into the puzzle. And then finally, the big piece to make sure we have a conversation about is that level of play. Some of the initial feedback I've been getting from, you know, some of the groups already is making sure that it meets their needs. So making sure that we're going to be putting in turfs that allows them to compete at the level that they want to take it. So things to consider as we get kind of into the next levels. Leah, I see your hand up, so over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very exciting. The last couple of meetings, I'm just like buzzing with all the great things that are happening in this community. So thank you both for those presentations, and excited to see where these next steps go. I wanted to build on, what you said, Tara and Dawn, around the level of play. I've been thinking a lot about that since, you know, we have all these sport groups coming to present to us. Obviously, that's kind of an area that I work through Sport Fletcher and I'll look closely with them. And I think, I just hope that we will, and I know that we will kind of keep that on our radar, because I just see the opportunity there for meeting all the vision of the community connectedness, the more opportunities for economic development. If we can partner with a sport organization where they're fundraising some of those extra pieces around bleachers or like quality of turf, that strengthens our community partnerships. It gives them a better sense of pride. I think it ticks so many boxes. And I think too often we see those level of plays, people are afraid of it, or they see it as elitist, or they see it as maybe a disconnect. But I really think if you look at the city of Kamloops, I work with their recreation department, and they're, you know, the city of tournaments, but it trickles all the way down to their community level. So I think that it's again, based on what the community says and what, you know, the best needs are, of course, but I think we'll try to keep a voice to that as we move through this, and hopefully we can explore all those options. So thank you.
Thank you. And also back to Drew's point, is what I think we're certainly seeing through COVID is the importance of recreation. And when we had our delegation day and the groups were presenting their needs, time and time again, what they came back to was, you know, their sport builds community. And as much as we've been talking about how this is a recreation field and it's an innovation opportunity and it's a learning opportunity, it's also a cultural opportunity as well, because when people come together and recreate together, you know, that's who your friends are, is the people you do things with. And so it's a way of bringing community together.
Well, and I think sorry, Tara, just to build on that too, like you know, rugby hosting national championships. Like that's an amazing cultural experience for our community. And I also think Calgary's way behind in its infrastructure. There's what, you know, the never ending promise of their field house and all those things. So I do think we're in a really unique place for that. And again, not taking anything away from what our own community needs are, for sure. I think it just builds on it. So thanks.
Perfect. So I'm not seeing any other hands up. We do have more to discuss tonight. And as you know, I like to keep our meetings on time. So I'm glad that we've got our energy levels up and the creative juices going. So keep that up and be prepared to bring that to the table at the next meeting. So unless I'm missing something, Drew, did you what?
Just going to, there was two more slides in my presentation. It's good that I see Lloyd here as well, because this was the segue for Lloyd's suggestion. So I'll just go back to my presentation very quickly and then wrap that up. And of course, I'll let Lloyd talk about his suggestion for our group. So just 1 second, if everybody can let me know if this is back up and everybody can see it. So we had the additional input that was received. Devin, thank you very much for your presentation. So Lloyd, you had an excellent suggestion for this committee. We next meet April 23rd, and that's when we're going to meet with Urban. But Lloyd, if you want to maybe share your idea with the rest of the committee about what you had suggested to a few of us.
Okay, so Lloyd might not be able to respond. He had emailed me that he's still having some technical issues. So I think he may be listening to us.
On the screen here. So
yeah, I see him. I was hoping he'd be able to chat, but I think perhaps everybody saw it. Lloyd was suggesting that we perhaps, I think that's what you're speaking to do, is have a bit of a field trip with the group to go out and experience the site.
And I would just, I don't know, Justin, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would it be possible for us to incorporate not only a site visit here, but perhaps even seeing just maybe even the top of the Ag Society to understand the connections between the two properties?
Yeah, absolutely. That's easy to make happen.
Okay. Again, so is that something that would be of interest to people?
Yep, absolutely.
I think we know somebody from Colt who might be able to arrange buses and things like that. Okay, well, we'll leave it with that. So
that sounds great. So question, Drew, the April 23rd date. So the Tuesday is actually the 27th. Is the 23rd being suggested because of something else? Or is it just a typo?
Going by the agenda that I had, that was my reference. So is it the 27th?
Yes.
Those dates are April and May dates are wrong.
Okay.
It'd be April 27th and May 25th. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's why we do the meetings. April 27th. Okay, so the next meeting will be on the 27th, and then we will, the team will work on perhaps arranging a site visit outside of that experience. So we might get an extra chance to connect, which I think is going to be great. Okay, anything else from you, Drew?
Just very briefly, we had 2 additional submissions. So we had a letter from Cochrane Minor Baseball, just summarizing their presentation at the last meeting and requesting the consideration given the growth of their sport to meet their needs. And then certainly Bike Cochrane had a submission as well. And theirs was really looking at the benefits of a phased approach to this. I think Peggy brought up a good opportunity that they would like to explore as a temporary outdoor or a temporary parking lot to support walkers, bikers, and gravel bikers who are utilizing Range Road, it's Township Road 262. They also would like in the future to explore the opportunity to have temporary trail development for biking on the site. And then, of course, in the southeast corner, there is the bike facility, so the pump track. So they'd like to do some fundraising and get some idea of timing. I'm not sure if people are aware, but there's a number of pump tracks and bike parks that have opened in Calgary that are extremely successful. So they shared that information, and we're happy to share that with the committee as well. And then really, I'll just end on this slide. Hopefully Devin's presentation, my presentation, has helped sort of give you guys some context, inspire you to give some thought as we work towards April 27th. Because really I'd be excited to hear from everybody on this committee what different ideas you have. We want to make something special for Cochrane, and I will leave it at that. And beyond that, I will just say thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Drew. So that would be item 4A, I guess. We did have, the next item was the opportunities for public input and the community input and the engagement piece. And so I'm seeing this as two pieces. We are getting kind of early engagement, follow-up from the delegation days of last year. We have had different user groups reach out and engage with us and that want to engage with us. Bike Cochrane has sent me an email with some of their concepts. I will share that on with you, and they have asked to be on our next agenda. So we will work with the timing to make that happen. And then Drew, correct me if I'm wrong. In the next phases, we're working with Urban. We will be utilizing kind of Urban's guidance to kind of formalize the public engagement so that the different stakeholders have a more formal way of engaging that everybody's aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, and that's one of the things that I wanted to point out here. We've reached had two groups reach out, and I'm sure there's other groups who are also very interested. So we have to have a level playing field in terms of the input we're receiving. So it's not just going to be first in line. I think we need to, request some input that it can help guide some of the input that we need to make the decisions and ultimately help guide that project as we take it towards the public and ultimately council.
okay, looks, I'm just kind of scanning. So Alex, did you have another question or point?
Yep, Drew, just in preparation for that conversation about groups wishing to use that parcel of land before, this question of ownership, insurance, can you just check into that? I don't need the answers right now, but again, having had some previous experience in other life, I know that when we allowed a group onto a facility and then had an accident, there was some liability associated with that. And so we'd want to be able to be clear about that. So if you could just look into that, it'd be great. Thanks.
Absolutely, and we'll have to, I see Fiona's on here as well. We'll definitely, the school division is going to have an interest in this as well, so.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have, oh, sorry, Derry, do you have another question, comment?
Yeah, maybe the question would be answered if I looked at the public engagement policy and procedures for Cochrane, but because Dawn mentioned that earlier. But is it possible at some point that when Urban Systems takes into account our recommendations that we have like a brief public comment period of some sort where we release a draft, a revised draft plan, and then just put a deadline of say 30 days for public comments, and we notify all of the user groups that have given us presentations to equal the playing field, like you said, Drew?
That's a good idea.
It's a great suggestion.
Perfect. So thank you, Derry, for that. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm sorry. And thanks for your patience, everybody, as I kind of continue to scan and try to make sure we catch up with everybody. So just kind of getting back to the format of our meeting. If I can get a motion from someone to move item 4BI just to receive that for information. Excellent. So Mark has made that motion and everybody's in favor. Raise your hands if you're in favor. Looks like it's passed unanimously. Excellent. And then item 4IB, the opportunities for public input, just to receive that for information. Who would like to make that motion? Leah has made that motion. And I'll call for votes on that. Everybody in favor? Excellent. I'm assuming nobody's opposed. That's passed unanimously. And again, just in this context, if you did want to vote against something at any point, just let me know so we record it. But I am assuming information is not too contentious. Then moving on to 4IC, so the format and procedures to guide Parks and Rec Committee recommendation to council. And I saw there was an email going, some conversations going on this that I wasn't able to participate in. My apologies for that. I did reach out and have a conversation with our CAO about how to do that, because the committee has been given kind of clear direction on the work that we're to do, and we're proceeding down that, which is great. But how to deal with it when we have different groups, like in the Track and Field Association, come to us and make a presentation and ask, you know, for something. So how do we deal with that? And so what we've kind of decided to work best is that if there is an item like that or otherwise that the committee would like to provide input to council on, that they would then direct me as the chair and as the council rep to report back to council. And then I would then do that via email to my colleagues, and then also through the, at the end of every council meeting, every council member is given an opportunity to kind of present to our colleagues. So that would be how I would report back items from this committee. Does that make logistical sense to everybody? Good. Okay, so that's kind of how we'll proceed with that. I think when we do the roundtable, we will just have a conversation around that Track and Field Association presentation, and then just decide as a group how we want to respond to their presentation. So if everybody's fine with that direction, and I'm not seeing anything otherwise, if I could then have a motion to accept 4IC for information as well. Excellent. Kelly has made that motion. All in favor? Okay, and passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving then to 4C, council priorities. I'll just give a quick update. Council met last night, and kind of the biggest news there is that we passed the borrowing bylaw to borrow, I think, $23 million to pay for the new RCMP station, which is well past due. And so the plan is that we'll start this fall, I believe. It'll probably take 2 years to complete, but so that's underway. You would have seen the work on 1A is underway. So a lot of council's traffic strategies are kind of in the works right now. So that's kind of the highlights as I'm seeing them. Councillor Reid, do you want to add to that at all?
I think it's a good summary. Just a couple other things. Some local clubs, nonprofits got some additional funding this year through the United Way and through council. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. The focus right now on council has been strategically to meet our objectives in terms of transportation and the 1A in particular. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, if you go to the town council, Town Cochrane capital projects, there is a series of videos and maps that are interactive and really informative in terms of that. So I would recommend that for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Reid. So I think that sums up. Does anybody have any questions around the council priorities at this point? Not seeing anything. That's great. Okay, so if I can get a motion to just accept that verbal update for information. And excellent. Zari's making that motion. All in favor? Excellent. Looks like it's passed unanimously. Thank you so much. Moving on to 4C2. So we have had a fair update from Mr. Heineman and crew. But if there's anything else you would like to add, and if so, of course, Mr. Luff, your crew is always busy. If any of you gentlemen had something you would like to add, it'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I guess from the parks perspective of things, our priorities right now are rotating a little bit around the recreation piece and how COVID is going to affect our field bookings this summer. We're moving ahead with our bookings as we normally would in a normal season. So we're prepping ball diamonds and soccer fields, and we're hoping to have that up and running. Again, we'll see what the Alberta Health Service guidelines allow for and how that affects it. But we're planning on a full season there, and then we'll be onboarding our seasonal staff here in the next what are we? I guess next couple of weeks, we'll pick up a couple and then pick up the full force beginning of May. We're going with a little smaller crew than what we're entitled to. So we're going to see how that works out for us this summer and make our adjustments where we need to. And then our capital projects on the forefront, as Councillor Reid was mentioning. We have several in the park section, a couple of which are tied in here, the master plans at Mitford and the Cochrane Ranch, the Horse Creek project. We have a pathway project in Mitford. We have the Centennial Park partnership with Variety Charity of Alberta. And I'm missing one, but it will come to me at some point. So that's the quick update. Thanks,
Excellent.
Tara.
Thank you for that. I did want to give kudos to you and your team for the impromptu ice that was put on the old town hall site. In that brief window of being able to enjoy that, it seemed to be well received. So well done. Any questions from the committee for Mr. Luft? So Brad has the privilege of kind of implementing all of our trails and recreation dreams. No? Oh, yes, excellent. Dawn, you have a question.
Brad, when the off-leash dog park on 22, when the work was being done there, you gave us an information update that there were going to be some trees planted as part of the remediation of the site. Am I right on that, or what's the status of that?
Yeah, no, TC Energy went in and did some planting to the south of that area. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but they replanted the hill on the I guess the south facing hill in Riverfront Park, and then just south of the small dog park, they made a kind of a picnic area and planted in the neighborhood of about 70 trees. But that project is complete, and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just scanning. I'm not seeing anybody just yet. Oh, Leah, you had a question, comment?
Just a quick question. I don't know who it would be for, but just around the recreation master plan, noticing it was done in 2012. Is there like a built-in process to like relook at that or update it, or does it just kind of keep rolling? How does that work?
So from under my council lens, I'm not aware of a built-in process. Like if the question is like, do we do that every 10 years or do we consciously budget that every 5 years we do a lens through it? I'm not aware of one, but I'd love to be corrected. Brad or?
No, I can't correct you, Councillor McFadden. I think that is something that we recognize with a number of our documents. We've seen significant growth in our community, and quite frankly, all our documents haven't kept pace. So it is something that we should be looking at.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a great document. I was just curious because, yeah, that's all.
Well,
just for clarity though, it's not a recreation master plan.
Sorry,
it's
right.
a parks plan.
Yeah,
we're missing the
right.
recreation master plan. I just had
Maybe
to
that was
mention that.
consciously in my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tara.
No. You've touched on something that Dawn has tenaciously championed since the beginning, is the need for us to actually come up with a recreation plan for our community. It is a gap. And then as Mr. Hyman was recognizing that we do have a number of plans that we've kind of outgrown. A lot of the work that our planning department doing is right now is the land use bylaw, which is a very boring title for a very important document. So when that comes through its public engagement piece, I would encourage everybody to engage on that, because it's the land use bylaw is where the teeth is on how we let our community built out. You know, that's how the houses fit together, how the roads fit together, how the sidewalks fit together, parking and all those details where we get grumpy at each other. It's the land use bylaw that spells that out. And I'm sure our planners have a better way of describing a land use bylaw than that, but that's my layperson interpretation of it. So excellent. Any other questions then? I think we're good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Luft. So then, yeah, just a motion to accept administration's priorities update for information. Excellent, thank you, Peggy. Peggy's made that motion. All in favor? Thank you, approved unanimously. Great. So committee priorities. This is kind of an opportunity if the committee's got something in addition to what we've been talking about to bring that up. But there's kind of a roundtable as a chance to give an update as well. So, okay, I'm not seeing anything in the committee priorities, which is fine. Okay, so then the roundtable, I will start this off and then open it up and ask our different partners. So Fiona has joined us from the school board, and Justin Burwash, and so we'll go from there. Anyhow, but I did want to start off just to recap. In our last meeting, we had the presentation from the Cochrane Sport Track and Field Association sharing their vision and their excitement, and it is quite a vision. They're advancing that. I did see an email. They're moving ahead to some community engagement work, and they have reached out, and the town of Cochrane has officially supported one of their grant applications. So they're got a lot of momentum behind their vision. So in their last meeting, they were kind of asking us to kind of share some support. So I just from that presentation, it wasn't clear what their total ask was, but I would like to have maybe a 5-minute conversation to see what the group thinks of what their presentation was, and if we wanted to give a general support for their project from this committee, with the caveats that it's kind of vague information at this point. Dawn, over to you.
I think personally, I support what they're trying to do in principle. I wasn't really clear what they were looking for in terms of support from the committee. And I have a lot of questions in terms of if they're running it as a track and field facility, how are they going to schedule and manage to have special events and more community-based activities? And I think that's a broader discussion that would have to be had. But I certainly support, in principle, the concept of anything that offers recreational opportunities like that and sport opportunities.
Okay, who else would like to make a comment on that one? Fiona, this is, oh, sorry, Peggy, your thoughts?
Yeah, whoever wants to go first. But I live in this neighborhood, so I put out a message saying, did anybody hear about this? And a few people had heard about it already in the neighborhood. Just a couple of comments. There was general support for it. I think it's most important that it serve the needs of those tri-schools, and that takes up their entire field. So I'm sure they have a bit of a debate to have amongst the schools about whether that's the best use of that space. I think it would be great for the community, of course, and they made a good case about how it's a needed facility in the region. The only other thing that popped into my head was because I spoke to some friends who live in Riversong across the valley there. They have a big field as well with lights that are on late at night, and that bothers local residents. So this is something that really needs some local involvement and some discussion about things like that and noise and whatnot. Yeah.
For sure. Yep, fair points. Anyone else on?
Sorry, Tara, did you want me to chime in?
Yes, please do.
I absolutely agree with everything that you just said there, Peggy. You know, Tara referenced there, as she's a parent of a kid at the tri-school, that received an email from the school, and with everybody's permission, I would like to share with you, not right now, because I don't want to share my screen because the tech just fails me and then it's just doesn't work so well. But with the committee, I would, if it's okay, send you all an email with an invitation to participate in the community engagement session that's set for the next Wednesday evening, the evening of March 31st. As well as the link to the Zoom session. It is obviously everything these days is online, and I know it's been sent out to the parents of the schools, but they really do want the whole community engagement. It's not just for the schools. The committee that's working on it does want to get the word out, and so if we can either, if you would like to participate, great. If you can share the information with your contacts and different associations and groups, that would be great. Because I think from a school perspective, sure, absolutely, it's great. Most of the parents who are at that school don't live in that community, right? And they don't know the impact of the lights, or they wouldn't experience the impact of the lights and the noise and the traffic. And so we absolutely want to get everybody's involvement and input in that. So I will share those out with you if that is a-okay.
Yeah, Fiona, I think that would be excellent. And we'll make sure that any of our groups that have public engagement opportunities, that we generally share those out. Leah, did you have a question, comment?
Just to, I guess, echoing Dawn's comment again, but I do support it, and I think it's a great addition to the community. I think if it is left in the hands of that group, there is a potential around, and I don't know, there's no accountability to keep it as a community hub that's open to other groups. Do you know what I mean? So like if they don't have an allocation policy that allows for, outside users other than, track teams or competitive leagues or school teams, then, and I know the school would be a partner with that as well. So I think, yeah, they have a big vision, and I guess my concern is over the long term that might get washed and it would just become a high performance sports park, which I just advocated a little while ago, but I think it's just that balance. So like, is there a precedent for something like this down the road? And I don't know if this is what they were asking for, but for some kind of a partnership with the town, or even just a role around sharing the parks, our policies on recreation and allocation or something like that, right? So I just think I know the school, again, Rocky View's involved with that, but I think personally, I would like to see some kind of, and I know it was Spray Lakes, there's also a role there on that board. So I don't know if that's something we would like to look at down the road as an official kind of partnership with the town, whatever that looks like. But for me personally, to keep it as, a community and municipal park that wants to do all the things that they are planning right now as staff changes and people change, to keep that essence, I think that could be something to look at.
Okay, so let me just see if I can kind of paraphrase that. It's general support, but we really are requesting that the group keep a community use lens to the project.
Very much more eloquent than me, yes.
No, it's because I got to hear your brilliance. So, okay. Any other thoughts or questions around this one? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. So I have a suggestion to make for the group then. Oh, sorry, Derry, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe one of the deciding factors would be to know more about the costs and what the financial ask of the town of Cochrane would be for that project, and that might be something that would be secondary to what Rocky View thinks about the use of that land as well. So I think knowing more details about the costs would be very helpful, and I'm sure they'll come up with that maybe at the next meetings or at the community consultation. So
yeah, it's a fair point. Sorry, go ahead, Fiona.
I was just going to say there are still things that need to be worked out from a school perspective, a Rocky View Schools perspective, with the group and what their thoughts are. So some of those conversations might be a little bit too soon for happening right now, but definitely would be sort of on the radar for conversation as the project continues and as the scope gets a little bit more defined, and as all of those kinds of pieces kind of come into place. But it's likely a little bit too soon to have those conversations yet, I would guess.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a fair point, Fiona. Thank you for sharing that. It's very much in the beginning stages of bringing this to life. Leah, did you have another question, comment?
No, just forgot to put my hand down. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm suggesting for the group is that we pass a motion directing myself, Councillor McFadden, to express the committee's general support and also encourage the group to ensure they keep a community lens on their project. And then I would take that and report it back to council. So just our general support, nothing too dramatically more than that. Dawn?
Could we say general support in principle?
Sure.
I think we support the concept in principle, but that's as far as we're willing to go at this point.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting when they were doing their presentation. I was a little bit leery. It's like, when are they asking us for multi-millions of dollars? But it wasn't part of their presentation. Okay, so the motion would be that the committee provides general support in principle, requesting a community lens be kept on it.
Sure, could you have the Rockview County as well, working with the school board? I think that needs to be part of that as well. I'd be more comfortable with that if it was included.
Yeah,
I
I like, can you expand on in principle, Dawn? Like, I like how you word things, but I feel the same.
When I say in principle, I mean, we like the concept of, but we're not saying we're fully supportive of the project, even in this location or as broad as they brought it to the table. But in principle, the idea of having a track and field facility,
right,
that type of thing.
So we're like in support of the conversation too, you know, while it's in its infancy, you know, to be like, but I like how you brought that up. Good point, Dawn.
Well, I think the point is we're making a recommendation through Councillor McFadden to council, and at council, they'll have the discussion that's much, much broader than we're having.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of details that they didn't provide us, and I raised a couple of their concerns just from the local residents. So I think in principle is fine, as long as they know that that's not the end. We need more information.
For sure. Okay, so just in the chat box, if everyone can see what I'm proposing. I don't want to get too hung up on this because I'm just generally going to share to council the committee's general support. So the motion would be that the committee support the concept and principle and urge the Cochrane Sports and Field Association to keep a community use lens to the project.
Tara, I think they're actually called the Cochrane Track and Field Association. Are they?
Oh, they could. Yes, you're correct. Cochrane Track Field Association.
It's Alex here. Do you want the reference to the working with the Rockview School District to be in there as well, rather than a given? It should be specific.
Alex, as Rockview School Division owns the land, there's no option that they can't.
Good point.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so the motion so that the committee supports in principle the committee supports in principle the Cochrane Track concept. Okay, so changing it then that the committee supports in principle the Cochrane Track and Fields Association project concept and urge the association to maintain a community use lens to the project. It's not overly well written, but does it general thumbs up? Scared of it anyhow. Okay, good. Okay, so then that's the motion. I then request that somebody make that motion. Leah makes that motion. All in favor? Okay, passed unanimously. Okay, so then next up on the round table, this is usually an opportunity for the different representatives of stakeholder groups to share an update. Councillor Reid, did you want to share an update under your Spray Lakes Rex facility lens?
Yeah, for sure. So when the Alberta government announced the 4-step opening strategy, the Spray Lake organization kind of took that to measure as a good measuring stick about what would happen. But of course, as all of us know, that the visibility continues to be distorted in terms of the guidance that we were receiving, a number of caseloads, hospitalizations, and so it's been a that's been a moving goalpost, if you will. So a couple of things, and just strange things. So for example, if you wanted to do aquatics in the pool, and the majority of people who are doing that seem to be senior citizens, Alberta Health Services require that because their heads above water, they wear a mask in the water doing their aquasize. So there's just ridiculous things like that going on. We're not allowed to book people any closer than 3 meters and 30 minutes apart. So it's a gong show, if you will. Operationally, if anybody's been down there, you'll probably see 2 giant-sized sea cans on the left side of the entrance, and it continues to, that facility, at least the pool side, continues to be plagued by problems of poor design and development. So the original specs had 4 boilers to operate the facility. When they actually went in to look at why they're having problems with the boilers, they discovered that there were only 2 boilers there. A boiler should last a decade. They're both being replaced as we speak right now. And again, it's just a sign of the kind of challenges that facility has. The third thing I would say is you're probably well aware that the facility is joint owned by the town of Cochrane and Rocky View County. And in terms of that relationship, there has been some inequity in relation to the support of funding. And so the town has taken a position to address that in a more formal way. We've kind of negotiated that over the last 3.5 years, and it's gotten us nowhere. So we're taking a little, a kind of a greater stand on that. That's probably the most politically polite way to say it. So stay tuned. As all of us live through this pandemic and the changes, it's been really difficult in that facility and any of the patrons who wish to use it, but we're doing the best we can. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. And very diplomatically said, I think there's been an inequity there, certainly from the town of Cochrane's perspective. And yeah, we've kind of given clear direction or to be a little bit firmer in our conversation, since being diplomatic hasn't resulted in any change. Yeah, so any questions for Councillor Reid on Spray Lakes at all? No, not looking good. All right, thanks for that, Alex. Justin, anything from the Ag Society?
Sure, I'll give you an update. We're the biggest things on our front right now, from a big picture point of view, is the interchange that's going in, and looks like that's proceeding forward, as well as, and I've got to get more details on this from the town, but as well as a new utility line that's going in for water and sewer. I believe that'll have to go through our property. I can give you guys a little bit of a teaser, and then I can do probably a bigger presentation at some point. But if you let me do this, about a year ago, we kind of worked through a bit of a plan of how we would lay out things. And so there was a lot of work done on what components we would try and work into a redesign. Now, again, I think we alluded to it earlier too, that a lot of these things will move around and they're not fixed. But this gives you a good idea of the area we're looking at focusing our development on. with the new utility line going in, there actually is an ability to focus a little bit more density in this area also. So we'll look to maybe move some of these things over, and that we do have a bit of the interchange in here that you can see. This isn't the final design because it wasn't laid out completely when this was done. But what this interchange will do for us, they actually will need about this cut line back from us. And then it takes away a lot of this land down here. So currently we utilize this land down here, and all of this land along here is also Alberta Transportation. So we've got to have some final discussions with Alberta Transportation on that. So we're kind of deep into our future planning. The first and most important thing for our future planning right now is understanding what Alberta Transportation is going to do and what the town utility is going to do. And we'll have lots of fill discussions, I think, in what kind of dirt is going to be there, and perhaps there's some win-win thing in that we can have some level spots to give us as much options as possible to spread out the development of some of these facilities. The second page of this, again, a teaser of what the committee can look at, because it does tie into Horse Creek Park quite well. So this is kind of a list of different amenities. When we went through a consulting project, just to we polled the community, we had our consultants at our fair, and really tried to come up with what community services and that would be needed that would fit into our use. So we've got sort of a big list here of things that we would look to develop over a long period of time. So we've got some camping on here, which would largely service any of events or stuff like that we would host, whether it be dog shows, horse shows, or any other events. We've got a large admin building, which could be, I don't really like calling it an admin building, I'd rather call it a community service building, where perhaps we can host weddings or functions or that, and just have another large function space within the community that can be open for anyone. New barns, new arena, and a little bit better parking space, market space, I guess a long list there. So we're deep into this sort of consulting project. All of these pieces will move around depending on how this next stage happens and how our talks with the town and the Alberta Transportation go. So outside of this, we're kind of living with COVID, much like Alex's comments, where it's really hard to really interpret what the rules are. So when we moved to stage 2, it did allow us to open up a little bit more of our facility, our indoor arena, for fitness purposes, fitness of the horse as well as fitness of individuals. But it's hard to navigate what's right and wrong. So to be fair, the Alberta Health Services has been terrific to deal with in town. And we've had lots of discussions with them just to make sure we're doing things according to how we're supposed to. So stage 2 did allow us to open up a little bit more of use within the indoor arena. So we can have a group book that's less than 10, and we don't have to wear masks while we're riding because we can space out. But yeah, knowing the right answer is tough. So that is a very quick teaser. So if there's any questions, I certainly am open to answering them.
Yeah, Justin, thanks for this. What a fun night. Lots of interesting and inspiring, exciting projects on the go. Okay, so I'm just perusing the list here. Peggy, you have a question.
Yeah, thanks for that. I love this property, and I've been to so many good and interesting events there, horse related, the fair, the bench fair, the antique market. Such a cool, and I went fat biking the other day.
Yeah.
Such a neat property. I wondered if you had any space on this list for concerts. I know indoor concerts seem like a thing of the past, but maybe they'll make a comeback. And we don't seem to have a lot of spaces in Cochrane for concerts.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about designing the indoor arena such that we can have enough seating for, well, it's gone up as high as 4,000 people, but that's come up. Outdoor concerts could be done, like we have a bit of a natural amphitheater in some ways in this sort of zone in here and kind of overseeing our outdoor arena. So from an outdoor concert perspective, utilizing a bit of the seating along here and within the arena does work. So it is possible, and it does come up in the discussions for sure of the ability to do that.
Thanks.
Tara, you're muted now.
See, and my council colleagues wish that would happen more often, I bet. So Jesse, super exciting. I'm just trying to see, oh, Alex, you have a question. Go ahead.
Justin, this is great. I'm really excited about it. As I suspect everybody else is. I know that the that western leg or of the roadway in terms of the 1A had to be moved a little further west because of the pipelines and the weight that placed on them. And I'm assuming this captures that. But my question had to do more about access in terms of bicycling and pedestrian access. Like if you were living in Heritage Hills, is there some way to get through? Is there going to be some way to get through this property and across to the ranch? If there were, I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of pedestrian passages underneath that highway. But can they get through this property, the Ag Society? Is that part of your thinking?
Yeah, we've had I've had a couple meetings with Bike Cochrane also, and then that Peggy alluded to the Fat Bike trail ride that they hosted on our land too. So we've talked with them and talked a lot at our board level about different pathways that will be part of this. Some of it's I guess commuter pathways that take you from Heritage Hills maybe through into town and on. Those I suspect would be on the outskirts of our property, but then you get recreation and maybe competitive pathways that would be within the property. And so we would have trails probably through this area. Like Peggy talks about the Fat Bike trial that they ran. It really was up in through this area where we had some, where they're testing some trails. But there's lots more opportunity for trails. We're always conscious of not conflicting with our equine use. So that's always the balance, is making sure that we don't run into a conflict. And then we try and, again, figuring out use in terms of if we have something competitive going on, we got to have the ability to close off certain facilities and stuff like that. So balancing all of that is on our radar, but we haven't got the answers yet.
Cool. And I could ask one other question and maybe belabor the point. Have you got plans for the upper bench to the west?
Yeah,
like
if I show you, so the upper bench kind of in this area is what you're...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would largely stay the way it is, where we would have our large cross-country course remain there.
Okay.
It's a high caliber cross-country course that we can host international events on. There isn't, I think there's 2 in Alberta of this size and caliber. So the goal is to keep that. And then Pony Club has a desire to remain up at the very northern tip of the property. So there's pieces of that got destroyed with the new pipeline. So we are in the process of building a new dressage ring up there that we'll have access to in that, but largely will get used by the Pony Club.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Justin, it's super exciting. So many amazing things happening in Cochrane to get your energy up. So if there's no more questions on Justin's presentation, I think we're probably going to be talking about that more as we go along. Let's see, Fiona, did you have an update from the school board's perspective?
I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to the public engagement next Wednesday, which we've already done. So that is great. I will get that email sent out to the group later on this evening or tomorrow. And the only other thing from a Parks and Rec kind of perspective, just to sort of keep on our radar just as conversations continue. Rocky View Schools was not successful in securing any capital new school builds for Cochrane this budget year, which is quite disappointing. You know, as we continue to increase in our number of kids here in Cochrane, we will sort of need to be able to accommodate kids. Now, the challenge from the parks perspective is that what that means, because there's no schools coming online, would be the addition of modular classrooms. And, you know, the placement of those in some of our schools, unfortunately, sometimes might take away some field space because that's the place where we need to put modular. So nothing imminent for Cochrane that I'm aware of, but as we see growth in some of the different areas, that would be at Mitford, at Manitoba, and at Bow Valley High School, those kinds of places, we will be looking to increase capacity by putting on these modular classrooms. And we do try to keep away from as many of the play fields as we can. Sometimes it's just not possible. So just something to keep in mind as we continue with no new school builds. That also means no additional rec spaces, right, or sports fields or soccer fields or that sort of thing. So it does sort of come into play from the recreation in the parks, or I guess of the recreation side of things.
Yeah, Fiona, thank you for that update, because it is all intertwined, and we haven't really raised it. On the municipal side, the provincial government is forecasting, I think, a 25% decline in the municipal grants that we can get over the next couple of years, which is a substantial cut, which is going to make it difficult to invest in capital projects with a cut of that significance. So, you know, budgets are never set in stone, but it's looking pretty tight. So we have these exciting visions, and one step at a time, but we did get that heads up. So back to the round table though, I think Leah, you had an update, or you wanted us to fill out a survey for sure.
Sure, Bill. Yeah, I'm going to fill out a survey. So the survey that I had mentioned, I think a few weeks back, and Dawn was asking me about it in the chat. So yeah, it took a while, lots of back and forth. It was quite long. We got some great feedback from our advisory committee. So we have now 2 surveys. So one is for parents, and parents will fill it out based on their oldest child, just to kind of get a sampling. And then we also have a community survey. So that would be for anyone over the age of 18 in Cochrane area. And each of them, yeah, they take about 5 minutes. And so they're live. The links are live now. So I don't know if it's possible to maybe just include that PDF in the minutes, and then the links will be there if everybody wants to fill it out for yourself. And also feel free to share it amongst your networks. If you want me to send it to you directly, just send me an email, or I can share it however you like. We'll be promoting it across local newspapers, Cochrane Now, media, our goal is 500, and we have no idea if that's we think around 350, 400 would be like a good random sampling for the credibility of the results. So we're like, okay, let's go for 500. And so we'll see what we get. But with all of your help and support, I think we can get there.
Yeah, so for sure we can add those to the minutes, and then just would request for yourself and Fiona, if you could email the links to those surveys to Annika and Deanna, and then request if administratively we could send that out to everybody. I think that's fair.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. The more engagement, the more feedback we get, like anything else, the better decisions we make. Any other roundtable discussions? Anybody else have anything to bring up? No, everybody's kind of quiet. And Alex, I'm going to do this to you, put you on the spot. You've been quiet tonight. But did you want to give us any of your feedback through your lens as young university student with planning aspirations and a Cochranite?
Honestly, going back to the presentation by about the solar farm, I think that is an excellent way to show Cochrane as a sustainable leader in the region. And I think the education opportunities, as mentioned, are amazing. And I was wondering even if we could take it a bit further and maybe talk about engineering the buildings like the clubhouse in a more sustainable manner, perhaps even net zero and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that see how innovative we can get. So that's excellent. And then Annika, just heads up, I had promised Drew that this would be a winning opportunity for you. So if Annika, if you have any thoughts that you wanted to share on your first nights participating with us or through your planning lens at all. No sleeping on my committees.
Apparently not. I would just say that it's been a really great first meeting and it's been super interesting. I'm really curious to see where this is going, and I would definitely love to add lots of ideas in the coming meetings for sure.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure we give you an opportunity to both be our keeping me in line and chance to engage as well. Okay, so that's, I think, pretty much a wrap unless anybody else wants to wade in on the roundtable piece. I'm not seeing anything.
I'm going to jump in, Tara.
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah. I just wanted to take a minute and say thanks to Deanna for all the work that she's done behind the scenes in regards to this committee. And I know the 2 hours that we get together per month, there's a lot more that goes into it, and Deanna's done a fantastic job in making that happen. So I just want to recognize that and say thank you, Deanna. So thanks.
Thanks. It's been fun. So I've enjoyed it, and now it's time for Annika to have some fun, but I'll miss you guys. I enjoy seeing everybody every month. So I hope to see people around town. So
pretty well. So Deanna, yes, thank you so much. And yes, it might be a 2-hour meeting, but minutes and agenda prep and everything to keep this going on takes a lot of work. So thank you for stepping up and filling that role. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so I think then I just need a motion to accept the roundtable updates for information. And I think I saw Derry make that motion. I totally did. And just call for everyone in favor of that or opposed. All in favor? Perfect. So passed unanimously. Excellent. And so the upcoming meeting dates, it's the 4th Tuesday of every month. So we're looking at April 27th. And I don't have my calendar in front of me, but May something or other. May
25th.
25th. Excellent. So just keep that in your calendars. And so, yeah, and then the only decision I actually get to make on this committee is to adjourn the meeting. So I am adjourning the meeting at 9:04. Thank you everybody for your participation and, think energetic and creative thoughts. And I look forward to our working meeting with Urban at next month. So thank you very much. Yeah. Have a good night all. Cheers.